Hello and welcome to the Clock and Talk, an Arsenal podcast, and we're covering, for fuck's sake.
Good job me and Schwinn are a lot more prepared than you, because if we came on and went, oh yeah, we didn't watch the game either, we was on the piss, it'd be a pretty shit podcast.
Well, Mesut Ozil is the best number 10 in the Premier League.
Yeah, that all looks good on paper, but there's never been a football match played on paper, so it's not really worth much.
I'm going to make a bold prediction that Jack Wilshere will sign for West Ham United.
It's time to start watching football with your eyes. I think people listen to what the commentator's saying and have that as their own opinion, but if you watch what's going on, you'll see things a lot clearer.
Schwinn, who do you think is going to win the Golden Boot?
I think Alexis Sanchez might do a number on that this year.
Okay. Tony talks about a clock being right twice a day. Tez is right every day. Try it from 5, lads. Fucking beauty! Hello and welcome back to the Clock and Talk, an Arsenal podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. You'll follow us at clockend_talk on Twitter. We're also on Facebook and YouTube. Each and every week I'm joined by two lads, Tony and Schwinn, and you wouldn't fucking believe it. Schwinn is with us this week. How are you, mate?
He's not listening. I'm watching him. He's not listening.
I saw him wander off. So,
Anyway, fuck Schwinn. Because he's look at him, mate. Yeah, okay, no worries, Schwinn. Tony, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Obviously planning the days of Valencia and hopefully Baku beyond that. But yeah, in a pretty good mood today, and it's a bank holiday weekend here, so 4 days off work. To go with the other 361 days off work I have a year. So, yeah, can't complain.
No worries. And that strange voice people were hearing in the background, that's Darren, our guest from the Arsenal India podcast. How are you, Darren?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much.
Good stuff, mate. And you can follow Darren at Delhi Guna on Twitter. Is that right, mate?
Yeah, at Delhi Guna, Delhi the city rather than the place you buy sandwiches.
Okay. And Schwinn, you're going to say hello with us, mate?
Yeah. Sorry about that. Did I miss introduction, which I was called out first?
Yeah. Yes. I went to you first, and you just ignored it.
Yeah, that doesn't happen quite often, and I'm so sad about having missed that.
How are you, mate?
Very well. Got to watch the match with our guest today, Delhi Gunner. Perhaps not the best way for him to watch the match. We'll probably talk about that at some point, but very enjoyable, wasn't it? I mean, the way the game went, the way we played, and of course we'll get into that, but very, very excited about yesterday.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was a good result. Look, we'll go through this game, break it down, then we'll go through a couple of questions and touch on some other stuff. Tony, as always, mate, the lineup, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was, not to give credit to him, but I think it was bang on what Schwinn said the other day. There was two positions I wasn't sure about. One of them I thought it would be Monreal, but I wasn't 100%. And the other one I thought he would go two behind Lacazette. But again, it was the other position I called. He went the other way, and there was no problems with that. That was probably the way I would have chose to have gone. I just didn't think he would. But yeah, can't complain.
So I've got to congratulate Schwinn now, do I?
What do you mean you don't have to?
Darren, have you had any shocks with lineups with the Emery era, mate?
No, I think it's one of the things we all like about Emery. I mean, you knew what Wenger was going to do week in, week out. You knew the way he was going to play week in, week out. He didn't change anything. And now we've got a manager that changes things, 2-3 times in a game. Yeah. And I don't think I've called a selection right any time this year. The only thing I would say is that when I saw that team, it felt like it was the best Arsenal team we put out all season. It felt like that's our best formation, and those were the best players that we had available to play in those positions. He got Aubameyang and Lacazette in. He got all of his back five, the best back five we've got for those that are available. And, you've got Torreira and Ramsey and Xhaka in as well. It seemed like it was our best side. And we felt strong. It just felt like it was, for the first time this season, it was a strong side we put out.
No, it was. It was it did feel like one of our strongest. Schwinn, the first type of 20 minutes or so, mate, how do you think we fired up?
think we played well. I mean, just as the boys said, I think in terms of the team on paper, it seemed like the right way to go about things. I did think that we were going to set up as a back five and just soak up a lot of pressure. And that's exactly what we did, leaving Ramsey, Aubameyang, and Lacazette up ahead, chasing balls and looking for opportunities on the break. We all know Napoli like to play. They enjoy ball possession. They like committing bodies forward. And considering that and the deficit they were coming into the game with, it made sense that we'll leave some players forward. So the first 20 minutes in that sense were a culmination of all that. Great setup. Very, very good tactical awareness of how to go about a tie like this when you're 2-0 up. I was particularly a fan of how we set up. I really, really enjoyed yesterday's game. And it's a testament to Emery, this one, for sure. And, of course, to the players. We'll talk about Ramsey and what losing him means. But with him in that position and Lacazette and Aubameyang ahead, we feel dangerous. They complement each other very, very well. And I think the first 20 minutes we were very comfortable. We didn't get faced by our away form at all, and we set tempo as soon as the whistle blew. So I was very happy with the way we started.
Tony and Schwinn just brought up the Ramsey thing. 34th minute, Ramsey went off hamstring. Think in a good couple of weeks, and some are even saying that's his season.
Yeah, I mean, look. Hamstrings can range between sort of 2 weeks and 8 weeks, if not longer, if they're really bad. Hopefully, I mean, he felt it, went down straight away, didn't try and run it off and whatnot. So hopefully it's not a bad tear. Hopefully he's just sort of felt it and stopped as soon as possible. I'm not sure if that's the case. Looking at it with my zero medical knowledge, just from like other injuries I've seen before, it looks like a sort of month injury, and the issue with that is that would leave him out of every game apart from the final if we get there, but then he wouldn't have played for 6 weeks. So does he then get his place back? For me, I think it's a big loss, because I think he's vital for, especially if we're going to play this back five with him behind the two, just because of his energy. I don't think anyone else can do the job he gives us. So it's a huge blow, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him start for Arsenal again.
That's a real shame. Darren, are you a big Ramsey fan? And look, you got to appreciate the loyalty that he's signed with Juve, and things that he's done. Especially the back end of the season since January.
I tend to find myself going the opposite way to the crowd. When everyone loved him about 5 years ago, I was wondering why I hadn't done it before. And when he doesn't do it, I've been his supporter. He's a strange character, Ramsey. He's playing the best football he's played for Arsenal in the last 2 months. I mean, he's not shown this level of consistency at any stage of his career. He's had good patches, but he's been exceptional this year. Maybe that's because Emery has built a team around him, without him in it. He's built the team without thinking of him. He hardly played until Christmas, and I think we've got a player that's full of energy at the moment. But I think that is the last time we'll see him. I think that injury, Ramsey's got his eye on Juventus. I was a little bit critical of the club for not extending his contract. I've been a little critical of Ramsey for not talking to the club or pledging his future, meeting us somewhere in the middle over his contract. But I think he's got one eye on a huge money move, and I don't think he'll play again for the club. It's at least a month out, as Tony says, and then he's got to come back in. It's just a pity, because he's probably been our best player for the last 2 months.
Mm-hmm. You've like me, mate. We've got a bit of age about us, and I don't want to give away your age, but I know how you feel, mate. But look, legends gets thrown around when just recently when we've been discussing Ramsey. We discussed it last week on the podcast. When Ramsey leaves, is he a legend?
If he'd have signed a contract and stayed for the rest of his career, then yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's scored winning goals in cup finals. He's got a place in our hearts. He always will have. But this was a big contract. He's been with us for 10 years. But when I compare him with others at the club, if he'd have signed this contract, he had the opportunity to go down in Arsenal history. He's at the top of his game. He's playing really good football. Signed for us. He could have captained us for the next 4 or 5 years. He could have been the first name on the team sheet. He could be one of those players that takes us back to where we want to be at the top level of football. and he's not. He's decided to go somewhere else. So much as I admire him as a player, and I've been really impressed with his professionalism, but he's decided to leave, so I've got no time for him.
That's a fair call, mate. Fair call. Not going to argue with it. Schwinn, getting back into this Napoli game, take us through the Lacazette goal.
Oh, wow. Special. I mean, that's the only word I have for it. You know, we did attack a whole lot, I felt. Or even if we did, I don't think qualitatively we were good enough in the build-up to that goal. Again, that's not to criticize us. It was just the way we set up. We were happy to soak in pressure, absorb pressure, and see who we could release on the break. And if memory serves me correctly, this was the first proper chance we created. And credit to Lacazette for that finish. I mean, that is not an easy angle and not, you know, the right distance. I'd argue it was probably, you know, a yard or two, or maybe even 5 yards away from the comfort zone, as commentators like to call it. And he completely sold the goalkeeper. I mean, everyone would have thought he's going left, but he ended up going right. And it's a perfect free kick. There's really no other way for me to describe it. And I mean, I was stunned by it. I mean, I couldn't even celebrate. I was so stunned that I just had my hands in my mouth, like my face in my hands, and just in complete disbelief. So proper goal, proper finish, and credit where it's due. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. No, it was definitely. Tony, we're going to half time. We're 1-0 up, mate.
And I'll just say I completely disagree on the goal.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, let's go into that a little bit. Go on, Tony.
I thought it was shocking from the keeper. I mean, look, the wall was too close, which means you ain't going up and over it. The keeper's standing that side. I have no idea why he's took the step. It's gone in the empty side of the goal. If that goes in against us, I would be going furious at Cech or Leno, whoever happened to be in goal that day. I think it was a very good hit from Lacazette. He hit it hard, which gives it half a chance. But I don't think that should ever be going in, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm. You agree as well, Darren?
Yeah, I think Leno made a save. Was it the game before the Watford game from a free kick where he dived at full length? Great one for the cameras. Really good save. Similar sort of, you know, the ball was halfway up the goal. I agree 100% with Tony. The goalkeeper's made a step the wrong way and his balance is off. If that had gone in against us, we'd have been complaining about the goalkeeper. The keeper's there. He could have caught it. If he'd just watched the ball, he was at that side of the goal. He dances over and he catches it. It's a great strike. And it was a great goal, and I'm a huge Lacazette fan. I think anyone who works as hard as he does for the team, you know, I'm never going to say a bad word against him because he gives everything week in, week out. And it was a really good, well-struck free kick. But I'd be really disappointed if I was that goalkeeper.
Yeah. Tony, just back to you quickly. I've seen a lot of Arsenal fans saying that Ospina, obviously, what was going on there, was that something to do with the fact that he's on loan? Can't play.
He was allowed to play. I don't know what's been happening, as in who's been playing in the league for them. You watch a lot more of Italian football than I do, so I don't know if Ospina or Mary has been playing in the league. And to be fair to Mary, he had a decent game at the Emirates. I thought he definitely wasn't at fault for either goal. He made a couple of very good saves. So I don't know what got him that place in the first place. I know Ospina was injured earlier in the season, but watching him at the Emirates, he certainly didn't deserve to be dropped in for this game, and he still made a couple of good saves in this game. As I said, I think the goal was a huge error from him, but I don't know. I don't know why Ospina wasn't playing. I don't know if Mary's number one normally, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. No, I've got no idea myself. I thought he must have been injured or something, to be honest, because, you know, they're pretty much secured second place there and in the league and the Serie A, and I would have thought that's a do or die match for him. So I can't work it out.
Well, I said Ospina at the Emirates. Ospina was on the bench and Mary started. So
yeah,
it's not
weird.
I don't know what's caused that, but if it was do or die, it's the same sort of scenario as it was 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. We're going half time, mate. 1-0 up. You're pretty stoked, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, it was, barring us being stupid, it was done. I mean, the issue was always going to be Arsenal were very capable of stupid, regardless of who's in charge. We've probably seen it a bit less this year. We still concede at ridiculous times, and that was the more my worry. We concede one stupid goal in the 46th minute and they get their backs up and we start shitting ourselves. That was the worry. But I mean, all we had to do was be sensible, really, and we were. So yeah, I mean, that I know loads of people that book their flights at half time to try and get them cheaper, book their flights to Valencia.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Wouldn't you be spewed if that went fucking ass up for you?
Yeah.
Darren, I'm just looking at some, I don't know if this is a true reflection of the second half, because Napoli were type of throwing everything at us, and I felt that we were going back into our shell. Napoli, and I'm not sure this isn't a breakdown of halves in the stats, but they had 2 shots on target, but 13 shots off target, 5 blocked shots. What was your?
Yeah, I thought we controlled it. I mean, after the appalling performance against Watford on Monday night, I thought that was one of our best. We controlled the football. We pushed them where we wanted. All of those shots came from outside the box. That's why there's so many missed and blocked shots, because we limited them to areas from long range. I thought there was 2 things. That the first goal in this game was always going to be the important goal. It was a fairly evenly matched side, 2 really good sides, 2 Champions League style. It could have been a quarter-final of the Champions League for me. It was 2 really good quality sides. We controlled the football. Whoever gets that first goal in this game was going to be important. As Tony just said, if they'd have scored first, or if they'd have got a goal, then there's that panic, and we're not sure how we would have reacted to that. But by getting that first goal, we could then control the game, and we just kept them to shooting from outside the box. They did have chances, but you're going to concede chances. But I thought we created as many ourselves. I thought we were comfortable. I thought it was the best performance I've seen for a while. Really impressed.
Yeah, okay. So clean sheet, you're very happy with the defence as well by the Arsenal, or?
Yeah, I think Socrates, Koscielny, Monreal, I mean, they're not going to be around for much longer, but Monreal is a terrific left-sided centre-back. It may be his last year at the club. He may, he's getting to that age. He's coming towards the end of his contract. But he's been able to move from left-back to that left-sided central defender, and he's good at it. He's experienced enough. Koscielny's been outstanding. I mean, I ridiculed him in the game, his comeback game, thinking he's never going to get back to that level. But he's been exceptional. And Socrates has been the surprise package for me this year. He's been getting better and better, and he's hard. We haven't had a tough man at the back for so long, and he looks scary. He looks like somebody you don't want to meet. And those 3 together, I think, really give us some solidity. And they've got better and better. And our defence has been a problem all year long. But if you look back at the last 6 or 8 games, we've kept more clean sheets in the last 8 games than I think we did in the first 35, 40. So, yeah, I think we're in good shape there. When we get Bellerin back, Kolasinac may be an upgrade there. I think it's something to build on. But we're going to lose Monreal, and we're going to lose Koscielny. So,
yeah. And Rob Holding's back. He'll come back as well, so that's a plus.
I hope so.
Yeah. Schwinn... There was, and I didn't write it down in my notes, but there was one, and Aubameyang miss. I think it went over top of the goal. There was a fair bit of criticism there, but look, I'm not going to hang the bloke. I heard you boys talking on the last podcast that you boys did on the Arsenal India, because you're always a guest there, but. You were talking about his strike rate and that. You want to just share that with our listeners?
Yeah, look, there's no doubting that Aubameyang does fluff his lines every now and then. But I think the important thing to consider is how often he gets into good positions. One thing we've said about Lacazette, and the one reason we all have criticized Lacazette on this podcast, is because no one takes anything away from his link-up play, his work rate. But as the striker, and at times as the sole striker, he's never in goal-scoring positions nearly enough. Aubameyang is the opposite, and interestingly, both of them complement each other very well. So Aubameyang gets into brilliant positions n number of times because of his exceptional movement. But it just so happens that he's not always clinical. Now, you can decide which type of striker you like more. But I think when we have both these players, Emery has realized is the best way to use them in the absence of a true winger, in the absence of now Aaron Ramsey, and Mesut Ozil is still sort of in the balance. He understands he has to deploy both of them out and let them play off each other. So, look, I'm not the happiest at times when Aubameyang misses, Yesterday, he had a couple of chances, and of course, the one you spoke about, Tez. But I'm just happy he's getting in positions. I know he's lacked form. I said this to Darren yesterday as we were watching the game together, that he has lacked form in the last couple of, I'd say maybe a month or maybe more than a month. There was obviously that Tottenham penalty he missed, and it seemed like he was back in it after the United penalty. But from open play, he has been a bit weak. He has lacked that final touch, that final pass, or that finish. I just hope it comes back before the season ends, because we need him firing on all cylinders if he want to stand a chance of either finishing the top four or winning the Europa League, or both.
Yeah, no, fair call. Tony, we're getting into the back end of the second half. We've won, we've pretty much secured it. Is there much more to discuss in that, though? It was just one of them games, wasn't it? We got the job done.
Yeah, I think, look, we saw it out well. We were even good enough for Monreal to have time to go off and have a shit and come back and still carry on. So there's always got to respect for that. Yeah. I think they were basically admitting the game was done when they took Insigne off. I mean, he was their best player by miles. Even if what he was trying didn't come off, they looked for him at all times. It was like, oh, we don't know what to do. We can't break these down. Give it to him and see what happens. And he had a few nice little passes or a few good runs at us. And I think them taking him off was nothing, not tactical or anything. I thought it was just, we'll save him for another day because this isn't going to go our way. And yeah, we just saw the game out. Sensible substitutions. Obviously, Xhaka on a booking, so he was looking forward to the next round. We didn't want him to get booked needlessly. Bringing Iwobi on was a great move when you know they're going to push on. I think they'd moved Callaghan to right back at that point, or right wing back. So then you want Iwobi just run in with the ball, and that's what he done. He must. I mean, we don't really do a yards carried in football like they do in like American football, but Iwobi's would have been up there with the most on the pitch, and he only played 25, 30 minutes, and that's what he was brought on to do. So I tweeted straight after the game that I think Emery just got everything right yesterday. Set up, line up, substitutions, everything. I thought it was a faultless from him.
Yeah, no, can't complain. Now you're going to hear some rain in the background because it is absolutely bucking down in my place. Man of the match, let's get to them. Darren, who was your man of the match?
Emery. I thought like, I so much agree with Tony. The thing that sort of irritates me, just going back a little, is I'm always finding myself being really critical of Arsenal fans these days. I don't understand Arsenal fans why they support our club sometimes, because all they seem to do is complain about things. Yesterday for me was one of those perfect days where we controlled the game, we got the first goal. As Tony says, we've substituted well, we've done everything exactly as we should. And yet the Twitter feeds that I read and the WhatsApp groups that I'm involved in, there was lots of complaints that it was boring. We should be going out and scoring more goals. Wasn't it just nice to have a comfortable game for a change? We've had so many panicky games this season, even the 20-odd game unbeaten run. Most of those were down to the wire. And yet we had a game where everything worked well. I think if you're going to pick a man of the match, I think let's go to the defence. It'll be someone like either Socrates or Koscielny for me.
Yeah, for sure, mate. I'm hearing you absolutely with them Twitter Arsenal fans, and I just look at it and think yous are fucked in the head. Because I look after games and I think I don't mind not to single out players, but you've got to discuss. We're here doing a podcast, discuss their performance, and you'll know whether they were, we give our views on it. But the hatred that comes out, and I think look, we're not doing that bad, guys. We're in fourth place. We're right up there in Europa League. I think we're going well, and it's Emery's first year. I do look at our squad, and I think I don't know where I want to strengthen now next year. I've always been for a winger. But now I'm type of thinking, well, Monreal's going to go. We're going to need defence there. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer, I think.
Yeah, it's back on the supporters. Maybe it's our age, we are getting on a bit. And I think it's perspective. When you've watched Arsenal for as long as I've watched Arsenal, and it's been a huge part of my life. I'm still a season ticket holder now. I've watched them all over Europe. I didn't miss games for a year on end, home and away. And when you watch for years when we're not that very good, when forget modern football in the top 6 or the top 4 when we're in that sort of mid-table mediocrity, and we're Everton. There's years when we were Everton. There was a big period. So, I really appreciate the success now, but I don't understand Arsenal fans. I 100% agree with what you said. We're 4th in the league. There's a chance, there's a chance we could finish 6th, but there's a good chance we could finish 3rd and win the Europa League. I mean, what were people expecting? New manager, not his team. And yet it's been an up and down season. But, listening to Schwinn last night, he's of that modern era where they just complain all the time. What's the point? Where's the fun in watching Arsenal? We go and watch football because we like to it is to get our frustrations out. It is nice to swear at a player. I've ranted at most of the players in our team at one time or another. Yeah. But we do it because we love it, for that thrill of a goal, for that excitement of winning. It ruins our week if we lose. It makes our week. But it's an awful lot better if you go in with the attitude that you're supporting the club and you'll support them. As long as they fight for the badge, then you support the club. Fans wind me up. Arsenal fans wind me up.
Hey, mate, I'm hearing you, buddy. Look, I can only think of likes. That's the only reason I can think. But anyway. And Schwinn loves a good old retweet.
Oh, fuck off.
Schwinn, your man of the match, buddy.
Ooh, very tough one. I think Koscielny was excellent yesterday, considering how often we were soaking up pressure, and he made some key blocks. There's very vocal, took up that mantle. It's not something we see from Koscielny a lot, especially when Socrates is around. You expect him to be marshalling defense and setting up the lines, but I thought Koscielny yesterday was instrumental in that. He stepped up, was happy to lead the defense, and I thought he did very well. I would like to also give a shout to Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who I thought was very, very good yesterday.
Yeah, still my fun.
Yeah, Tony was going to say it, will you? Go, Tony.
Well, no, I mean, to be fair, I'm literally just going to echo him. I actually don't think anyone really played above an 8 out of 10. I think it was a sum of the team was a sum of its parts. As I said earlier, it was all to do with the game plan, the system, and whatnot. And if I had to choose someone, I probably would go Koscielny, but for me, Ainsley runs in very close. And the only reason I was going to bring him up is because we literally haven't mentioned his name yet on this podcast, and I thought he was very, very good yesterday.
I think to turn it around, if I can just jump in, just to turn it around though, why I thought it was such a good performance yesterday is turn it around. Who was our worst player yesterday? It was a struggle to find a bad player yesterday, and that's something that isn't so hard normally, is it? I mean,
I couldn't think of one.
Isn't.
I couldn't think of one.
I mean, everyone played well. It got slightly weaker. We started with a really good, strong side. It got slightly weaker as Ramsey came off, Mkhitaryan came on, and Nenny came on. It got slightly weaker as the time went on. But even the substitutions came in, knew exactly what they were meant to do, and did a job.
If you had to put a gun to my head, I'd have to say, look, and I don't want to single out anybody. Maybe a Aubameyang because I was dirty at the miss at the time. But look, I'm not going to take anything away from what Aubameyang's done for us this season. That's what I was going to ask. Tony Cech, he got a yellow card. I must have missed that.
Yeah, for time wasting, it was ridiculous. It was never a yellow card, but I don't think he was on one to miss a game, and I think they get wiped now as well. So in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter, but it was an absolute ridiculous decision.
Yeah, okay. Right. Anything else you want to add, Schwinn, for that game, mate, or we'll move on to some questions?
Yeah, I mean, I want to get your guys' thoughts on two things. Number one is how much were you guys actually scared at the prospect of conceding? Because from where I was sitting, and by my admission in a very inebriated sort of position, I never felt threatened. I mean, I remember telling Darren around the 55, 60-minute mark that this game is done and it's over. And he looked at me and said, "Don't say that. Don't jinx it." But I mean,
that's just years of watching Arsenal. Come on.
But look, Napoli are a good side. They know how to get out of sticky positions. They're able to play the ball. They know how to play football, and they created a lot. But when it came to the time when it counted, when it came to the final pass or the final finish, they struggled, and they struggled horrendously. I mean, Milik had two very good chances, one in the first half, one in the second. And, there were a couple of balls flashed across the box that never seemed to threaten. But when they were coming in, you'd think that we've just conceded. So I'll open the floor to you guys, and maybe Tez, we'll start with you. Were you ever threatened by the prospect of conceding and maybe even bowing out of this tie?
I was pretty confident going into this game to start with. It's as I said earlier, I don't want to take anything away from Arsenal because I thought we were very good over the both legs. Napoli, however, have been in a bit of a slump probably for the last 5 or 6 games. They beat Roma, or smashed Roma, back in April, 1st of April I think it was, March was it? Oh, April for me, March for you.
First of March is the 1st of April in Australia.
I think it was 1st of April, wasn't it? April Fool's Day, wasn't it? No. Anyway,
sure,
it doesn't matter. But anyway, it was ever since that game, they've been in a bit of a form slump. So, look, and I was always worried they may come out of that form slump and find some form against Arsenal, of course. But going into it, in answer to your question yesterday, I wasn't worried at all. Tony?
I think we're looking at this with a lot of hindsight. That Milik chance, especially at 0-0, the header, he scores there, it's a completely different game. I mean, yeah, it's very easy to say in the 60th minute that the game's done, but that's after he missed at least one sitter. I think Callahan should have scored when they was on the break. It's a good save by Cech, but I don't think he should be giving Cech the chance to make that save. As I said, the Milik header, I mean, that could have comfortably been 2-1 at half-time. Again, look, on our chance as well, Aubameyang should have scored the one where Mary made the save, but again, Aubameyang shouldn't have given him the chance to. And then that one that Milik missed in the second half, I'm not sure how he did. So it's very easy to say after, when we've rode the game out the way we did, but goals change games. Milik scores to put them 1-0 up. Who knows if we go up the other end and win that free kick to score a goal, or if we try and take some sting out of the game then and get caught again. You never know how it goes, but I'd be lying if I said I completely wasn't worried about them scoring. I think once we got to the 60th, I think they'd given up. They thought they're not going to get 4 goals in a half hour. And from that point, I mean, I'm similar to Darren. I wouldn't say out loud I think it's done. And I didn't go ahead and book my flights at that time. But again, if someone had a gun to my head, I would have said it was done. I probably thought it was done, but you don't say it, you don't tweet it, and you don't go and spend money on it.
Darren?
Yeah, I mean, just repeat what I said earlier, is that the first goal won that game. If they'd have got for the first goal, then we don't know what would have happened. We don't know how we would have reacted. We don't know how the crowd would have reacted. We don't know what they would have done. But we got the first goal. And, I thought the tie was, again, I'm never going to say it out loud. We've seen, do you remember being 4-0 up at Newcastle with 20 minutes to go? I mean, there's times when you just don't say it. But, I thought once we scored the first goal, we looked every bit the professional side who was going to see it out.
Interesting. The second thing I wanted to speak to you guys about is Mkhitaryan. I thought losing Ramsey, of course, was a big blow, not just in terms of quality, but in terms of the way we were set up. What did you guys make of his performance? I won't opine on this before I get something from you guys. So let's start the other way around, Darren. Why don't you get us started?
It's just a huge opportunity for Mkhitaryan for me this year. Now, with Ramsey's injury, Mkhitaryan's been a bit of a disappointment. He's got all of the attributes to be a top player, and yet it seems to be a confidence thing with him. He's one of the reasons I think we're not so good away from home here in Iwobi. Unless they're playing in front of their crowd, unless they're feeling really good, they've been very disappointing. But now he's got a real opportunity. I thought when he came in last night for Ramsey, he did exactly what he was meant to do, and he is the one. I mean, we've got Ozil didn't play, but Mkhitaryan is the one who, if we're going to play that same formation, could absolutely do the Ramsey role. He's technically gifted enough. He likes to go forward. He's got an eye for goal. He's just been a bit disappointing, but he can become the legend this season in the next six weeks.
Tony?
I thought he just quietly went about his job yesterday. As I said, I don't think anyone was an 8 out of 10, and so obviously that includes him. I thought he was okay. He'd done the job we needed him to do, but he didn't excel. He also wasn't poor. I'm not sure if he's the right man to replace Ramsey in that system. I don't think we can replace Ramsey in that system. We're not going to get the energy out of anyone else. I don't think Mkhitaryan provides that. Because Ramsey, although on the team sheet he lines up at 10, he's still very much box to box, and he's very strong at pressing because he doesn't stop running. Mickey's not going to give us that. Mickey will pass the ball a bit better, or more incisively. Maybe not better, but he's more incisive. But I think if that's what you're going to go for, you go for an Ozil. I think Mickey's somewhere between the Ramsey and an Ozil, so it depends what you're going for. If you want all energy, you go Ramsey. Obviously, that option's been taken away from us. If you want all guile, you go Ozil. And if you want somewhere in between, I think Mickey will be the man. It'd be interesting to see. And you've got to remember, Aubameyang and Lacazette aren't also going to play up front together every week when we've got a few games in a very short space of time. So in terms of, look, we said it when we're talking about replacing Ramsey as a player at whole. I don't think there's anyone that replaces him. And the same goes for replacing him for the rest of the season. If we can't replace him long term, we're certainly not going to replace him internally in the same mould. We may replace him in the lineup, but I think we'll have to play slightly differently.
Take it away, Taz.
Look, Mkhitaryan, this is going to be my real worry because Emery came out and said after that game, look, Ramsey's been injured, but we've got replacements to cover it. So I'd imagine he's talking about Mkhitaryan. I am absolutely worried. I was always worried that we're going to, we're not real great at away. So now we're going away for these next couple of games that we need to win with Mkhitaryan in the lineup. That for me is going to be a make or break for Mkhitaryan because we're all going to be watching him like a hawk. We've all watched Ramsey like a hawk, who's been performing for the last 2 months, and now we're going to have Mkhitaryan, I suppose, starting each week or most weeks in that slot, and I just think that's going to be the make or break for Mkhitaryan with Arsenal fans. This next 4 or 5 weeks is going to be pretty crucial for him.
It's going to be interesting because as you guys spoke about, I thought he did some things very well. He was very good at progressing the ball, but I thought he lacked his final pass. And look, if you take risky passes, then you will miss a few. But I thought he lacked it quite a bit yesterday. Emery's substitution to bring on El Neni in that matter, I thought was a stroke of genius because he allowed El Neni to progress the ball and then progress himself up the field. He almost gave Mkhitaryan someone to play with. And I thought that was a very, very smart move. But as Tony said, I don't think we're going to play Aubameyang and Lacazette week in, week out, especially in the Premier League. So how do we go about, incorporating Mickey? Do we bring in Ozil? It will be start in the Premier League? Because I do think now we're going to switch focus to the Europa League and put, our eggs in that basket. So I was interested to hear what you guys had to say about that. Just before I hand it over... Go on, Tony.
Well, I was going to say, the Europa League is the 2nd and the 9th. We only have one league game after the Valencia second leg, so I don't think there's a chance in hell he switches focus because I think we play 3 or 4 league games before the first leg of Valencia, so he's not going to take the next 3 games off in the hope of winning one. We could, in theory, have top 4 sewn up by the time the first leg comes around.
Oh, that's confident.
No, I don't think we will. I'm saying if we win the 3 games, then obviously you'd hope Tottenham drop points tomorrow. Chelsea and United have got each other. United have got City. So I honestly believe if we get 9 points out of everything, it'll be done by then, especially with one of the games after that being Brighton at home. So I can't see there's any way he switches focus, not just with the way it felt. If Europa League was next week, I wouldn't be surprised if he took a game off or he took a game a bit lightly. Not off, but rested a few players like what we saw at times last year. But with 3 games before the Europa League and then the Europa League game only a week apart, with a game at home in between against Brighton, who are in deep trouble, I really can't see him. I think he's going to try and go full strength ahead in both of them.
Well, I wonder whether injuries play a decisive role in that. I understand the premise that we don't play in the Europa League for a bit now, but I wonder if Emery is thinking about preserving some of his players and and I think that will speak to where he's putting his eggs, and it's going to be interesting to see. But I do not see him going full strength in the absence of Ramsey, on whom, for a matter of fact, there is an update just a few minutes ago. Be out for 2 to 3 weeks, according to Emery.
The old Indian internet's cutting out again. Schwinn, go again, mate.
Apologies. Just saying that Emery has just said that Ramsey is going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. James Ollie just reported this on Twitter, and it seems like he could be back for the final PL game, and of course, by definition, the Europa League final if we make that. So there could be some light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to Ramsey.
Okay. Just look, let's continue the Europa League for a minute because we've got to get past Valencia first. So I don't want to jump the gun too far because I think that's going to be pretty tough to get past them. But look, I'm quietly confident as well. I think Valencia are a bit tougher than Napoli. But looking at Chelsea and Frankfurt, if they're who we look like meeting in the finals, who do you prefer, Darren?
Well, I always want Chelsea to lose, so Frankfurt is a no-brainer. But I don't think we should be concerned whoever we play. I think we're the best team left in the tournament. If you compare us with Chelsea, it's a Premier League top 6 game, so a final against them could go either way easily. It's the same as we could finish 6th or finish 3rd. It's very tight. I just think that we've just got a bit over Chelsea at the moment. I don't think they're playing with the same belief that we are. So I'm not rather. I mean, I don't watch a lot of European football. I've got a very much an Arsenal fan, and I watch football if I want someone to lose. I find myself not watching a lot of Italian or Spanish football, German football, unless I really want a team to lose. So I can happily watch Manchester United, Chelsea, West Ham, Spurs every week because I want my second favourite teams always playing. And but I think it's going to be an Arsenal-Chelsea final. I mean, like you, I don't want to say it too much. It's a tough 2-legged game, but I think we're good enough. I think the mentality in the side, we've got a very good manager, great pedigree in the competition, and I think it'll be Chelsea, and it'll be a one-off game. But I think we're better than them. I think we are man for man better than them this year.
Okay, Schwinn.
I mean, to start off, I think I would prefer Chelsea in the final than I would prefer Frankfurt, and I think Frankfurt are going to lose to Chelsea. The reason I say that is because I fear some of the attacking power Frankfurt has. And I think Chelsea's defense is good enough to stop that and get over that. At the same time, I don't fancy us against Frankfurt's attacking power. I think that some of their players have been very good, in particular Luka Jovic, who is attracting a lot of interest by reports from the likes of Real Madrid. So that tells you the kind of output he's had recently. I also think Frankfurt's a tougher tie for Chelsea than Valencia is for us. I was very happy with the prospect of playing Villarreal or Valencia in the next round. So I'm not fearful about the next round, but I would prefer Chelsea in the final, as counterintuitive as that might seem.
Yeah. Because you watch a bit of the German league, don't you, Schwinn?
I mean, I dabble. I am no means an expert in it, but every now and then I'll watch the Bundesliga for sure. Yeah,
okay. Because I have heard good things about Frankfurt. I don't watch German football myself, but I've heard they're a very good team.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, even Benfica, for that matter. I never watched the tie that they had, but by all accounts, they've put up some very good numbers, and their attacking prowess for both teams across the board has been very, very good. I think it was a Benfica striker who was the leading goal scorer in the Europa League at the beginning of this particular tie yesterday. So, I mean, that tells you the output they're averaging as a team and on an individual level. So I'm just glad we're on this side of the tournament tree, and we don't have to worry about either of those two. But I'd fancy against Chelsea on a cup final day, particularly if Aaron Ramsey comes back, because that man is all about the script, and if there's ever a script written for Aaron Ramsey, this is it.
And Tony, because I also want your take on the Valencia game, because you know a little bit more about the Spanish league, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, look, first off, I think Frankfurt are being criminally underrated in England. They're a very decent side, and they're also a very good cup side. They beat Bayern Munich in the German Cup, I think, last year. They won it. They've obviously got this far. They came back from 4-2 down. Look, they're leaky. They will leak goals, but they can score goals. They came back from 2-0 down, 2 goals down. In the tie that we've just seen. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Chelsea over 2 legs. Okay. On our side of things, I actually looked this morning, by accident. I looked this morning, and our odds against Valencia at home first, we're almost evens, or 1.9 we are, which, I mean, considering our home record, I think is a very big price for Arsenal. That means that they're going to be strong favourites when they're at home. I don't see it as close as the bookies see it. I expect us to go through. I'll be honest, against Napoli, I thought it was closer than most people did. I mean, a lot of people were saying, Arsenal were doomed, they're definitely out. I thought it was closer than that. But I thought Napoli were favourites, whereas with this, I think the bookies have priced it too close, and we should be favourites.
Okay, all right. That'll be interesting, so we'll see how we go. Okay, let's get into a couple of questions. We've got about 15 or so to get through. And you can also ask us a question at @clockend_talk. Usually Schwinn puts the question thread up just after the game, but if he doesn't do it, then some other bloke does it. And Schwinn's about as reliable as they come. Okay, Cosman Buta, he says, Tony, since I'm not watching other teams as close as I watch Arsenal, maybe you guys could shed some light onto something for me. Do City, Pool and other teams have the same amount of players who put in basically a shit performance as Iwobi, Mustafi, Mickey, Ozil, even Aubameyang from time to time?
I mean, first of all, I find it a very strange question after yesterday's game. But in general, look, I think where Arsenal fans are so vocal, look, City and Liverpool take out of it. No, they generally don't. Their players tend to not have nightmares. So you can kind of ignore them too. In terms of Arsenal, I think it's just our fans are so vocal. It's like we were talking about fullbacks last week, and someone replied saying Tottenham have got very good attacking and defensive fullbacks. Being from North London, a lot of my friends are Tottenham fans. They hate their fullbacks with a passion. If you want to hear how bad Kieran Trippier is, talk to a Tottenham fan. If you want to hear how good he is, talk to an England fan that doesn't support Tottenham. Because we don't see that Tottenham moaning about him all the time. Everyone thinks he's brilliant. The same with Danny Rose. Danny Rose will give you a chance every game defensively, and attacking wise, his numbers aren't brilliant. He's there in body, he gets up and down quickly, but like you look at his numbers, they can't compare to Kolasinac's. But you see us like ripping the shit out of Kolasinac. You never hear a bad word against Danny Rose. That's just an example. I think other teams do have these players. I mean, you go through Man United, who are also in the top 6. All of their players get it from time to time. I mean, I think Pogba's got 13 Premier League goals this year, which is, I know, basically 9 of them are penalties, but they're still outstanding for a midfielder. But we still hear every other week how it's the same sort of criticism Ozil gets. So, yeah, it does happen. It definitely does happen.
Maybe just because Cosman Butta's, he's in the Arsenal Twitter Twitter feeds and whatnot. He's probably hearing it more, I suppose, but don't really hear much. I think
that's exactly it. We hear the noise about Arsenal because we're in an Arsenal world. But if you enter the worlds of the other teams, and even if you think about it properly, as I said, I'm sure he's heard Pogba abuse. He's heard abuse of this player, that player. But that's how it is. It's just we're more Arsenal centric.
It's funny. I haven't heard a Leicester fan since they won the league. They still got any fans there?
I didn't know any when they won the league, to be honest.
Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang Golden Boot, Darren. He's just asking where does Kashani rank amongst our centre-backs in PL history or even our entire history? His mistake versus Brum in 2011, if you can remember that, was bad. But since then, he's shown character to be good for club and country, and he was immense both Napoli games.
Is this Koscielny, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the history of the club, he's been there a long time. He's played a lot of games. He's been the best of... Arsene Wenger wasn't very good at choosing defenders, was he? I mean, centred defenders. So, if you go through that era, Sigan, Senderos, I mean, you can name quite a few that didn't quite make the grade. And Koscielny's been sort of ever-present and the best one of a bad bunch. That makes me sound negative, and I'm not. I mean, he's been a terrific servant for the club. But he is what he is. I don't think ranking him all-time... he's back to that legend tag, isn't it? Is he going to leave and become a legend at Arsenal? Has he been Tony Adams, Steve Bold? I'm not too sure if I'm honest. I think he's been a very, very good servant at the club, but legend status, don't know. The strange thing for me was he was going to leave last year, wasn't he? Before he got injured, he decided that was it. He wanted to up and leave the club. I'm amazed at the way he's turned his career around. He was going to go back to French football and have a couple of years sort of retirement. If he couldn't get most of our players retired to West Ham, but he was going to go back to France to retire. Good player, very, very good player. But
I see what you're saying. Good servant, good player, but ranking along Tony Adams, nah.
No.
Jeez, what a footballer he was.
I was trying to think of other good centre halves, and the one that keeps coming into my head is Sol Campbell. And I hate Sol Campbell. I've always hated Sol Campbell. I don't understand how a player can leave. He's captain of our rivals. How can a player who is captain of Tottenham even consider moving to Arsenal? Now, look, from a professional point of view, he moved across the road, he won loads of trophies, everyone, it's all happy. He is hated in most of North London by everyone in their half. And I've got no time for a man who's got that little credibility that he will up and leave the team that he's played for all his life, he's captain of, and he leaves and goes to the biggest rivals. Got no time for him whatsoever. But I keep hearing that Sol Campbell's a legend at Arsenal. Never. Nah. Never in a million years for me.
He doesn't go in my legend status, and I see what you're saying, because it was very odd move, that one. Anyway, Schwinn's replacement.
Hilarious. So that's the question you throw to me from the guy who's going to replace me.
No, he didn't ask a question. He just saying an Aussie, a Pommy, and an Indian walk into a podcast studio. Sorry, I think I've heard this joke before. What do we got for you though, Schwinn? Oh, you've been having a yak anyway, doing?
Have I?
Yeah. Oh, that time,
I try
man.
not to.
Oh, yeah, Schwinn's answered all the questions on the thread, so the podcast is finished now. Oh, for fuck's sake. Vish says, how detrimental to our game will the loss of Ramsey be? Both our strikers, although scoring goals, are having a bit of a shitter in the past few weeks. Ramsey has been the go-to buy to score our goals when our strikers play like Stevie Wonder. From Vish. There you go,
Vish, why are you so negative?
Look, Ramsey's going to be a miss. I don't think anyone's going to deny that. But let's not forget, just a few days ago, we were very bad against Watford. A good side, but we were very bad. And for the past month or so, ever since the United game, we've been a bit hot and cold. Maybe even stretching a bit back, looking at Bate and of course, the first leg against Rennes. So we had Ramsey then, we had two strikers then, and, it didn't quite work out. So I don't think just missing Ramsey, is going to be the factor if we end up performing badly. I think that there's bigger issues at play. And perhaps losing Ramsey is going to force Unai to look into different solutions and come up with something different, something creative that we haven't seen in the past. I doubt we're going to see a new formation or a new setup in terms of personnel and shape, but I think it's going to force him to be a bit more ruthless at times with his selection. We just spoke about how Unai might put his eggs in one basket or the other, but I think I am convinced by what Tony said that there is still time to reconsider that. And I think losing Ramsey is going to, and the team we choose hence, is going to be a big indicator of how we're going to go about things. So I'm not quite too bothered by losing Ramsey. I'm more interested to see how our manager reacts and how he's going to pick future teams.
Well, that's MAA Gunner. Tony just goes into that. He says surely Ramsey can't be out for 6 weeks, but Schwinn just said he's seen a tweet for 2 to 3 weeks. Was it, Schwinn? Yeah.
Yep.
MAA Gunner, he goes on and says, how would you play in our upcoming games with Ramsey?
He probably means without.
I think he means without Ramsey, Tony.
Look, I've been an advocate of the back five for a while, so I'll probably stay like that apart from Brighton at home. I think in general, look, if Lacazette and Aubameyang are both fit and firing, he'll try and get them both on the pitch. If not, I think he'll go 2 behind the 1. So it'll be 1 of Lacazette and Aubameyang with 2 of Mickey, Iwobi and Ozil behind them. that's if he stays with this formation. I'm not saying he will. We've seen multiple changes for different games, so we don't know. I mean, to be honest, against Wolves, they want to play on the counter-attack. I wouldn't play the Aubameyang and Lacazette even if they are fit, because that means Wolves will invite us on, let us do the attacking and hit us on the break with their pace, which is pretty much exactly what they've done at home against us. So it's going to be different for different games, and that's what we've seen a lot of from Emery.
I don't know. Look, I like what's happening though. Like, we don't know. That's the good thing about it. Like, when with Wenger, we knew exactly what he'd do, as we said. So I enjoy it. For me, it's as long as he changes it for the right reason. I think most of the time he has. I think there has been some occasions where he's changed it for the sake of changing it. It's like, I want to keep people guessing, so I'll make a change, even if it's not really the right thing to do. I'm thinking going with 3 defensive midfielders, both home and away to Huddersfield. The West Ham away, the lineup was farcical, really. So they're 3 occasions, and I could probably name 10 or 15 where he's done it for the right reasons. So as long as we're doing it for the right reasons and it's to our benefit, I'm more than happy for it to happen. I'll stick with you for a minute, Tony. Since you all watched the game from the comfort of your home, can you give an analysis of the commentary?
Yeah, I'm assuming we all had different commentators because we'd have been watching on different world feeds. I had Hartson and someone else. Hartson was okay, to be fair. There was a couple of things he said that were a bit ridiculous. I mean, usually on BT Sport they have Stuart Robson, who is an absolute tool. So it was a bit better than that. Hartson was probably quite Arsenal biased while still being happy to criticise where it was due. He was like, I know there's one time Insigne went through and he was offside and he had a poor shot, and Hartson was, well, I assume he was jumping up and down and going mad. He sounded like he was, that the linesman hadn't put his flag up. It was all right. I've listened to a lot worse commentaries. I think they said a few things that I didn't really agree with, but then I say a lot of things that people don't agree with, so that's just the nature of football.
Darren, who do you have your commentary with over there, mate?
I've got no idea. I had Schwinn with me and he didn't stop talking for the whole 90 minutes. So, to be fair, he was just giving me his opinion on everything. To be honest, I was a little bit annoyed he was on the podcast tonight because I heard his opinions yesterday.
Oh, that's millennials for you. They just talk whether everyone's listening or not.
No, I wouldn't have a clue. I mute me commentary, so I wouldn't even have a clue who it is. Yeah, Schwinn, you know yours is?
No, I'm not sure. As Darren said, I was talking throughout the game, so I missed everything the commentator said, including who it was. But in the instances that I did hear him out, he seemed all right. So I'm guessing MAA Gunner, who's based in Britain, did not have the same one as us. And that would make sense because I thought the commentator we had was very fair and not biased at all.
Actually, I've just remembered it was, what's his name? Londoner, used to be Capital Sport, BBC commentator, made the stupid comments in the World Cup about VAR. Jonathan Pearce, yeah, that's it, Tony. Jonathan Pearce was our commentator. He's a strange fella, Jonathan Pearce, isn't he? Because he's a very good commentator. He's got some great stats lined up for the games, but I find him a little bit negative, to be honest. I used to love him when he was on the radio. He used to make all the games more exciting, but as a television commentator, he's towards the end of his day. Let's just say he's a Monreal. He's been a good servant, but I don't think we're going to see much of him in years to come.
I think we over in Australia, I think it comes straight out of England, so whoever they got, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I'm just going through these questions. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang Golden Boot. This guy cracks me up because he loves Lacazette, but he's got the Golden Boot as his name. Aubameyang, surely Napoli's overrated. How come they were so limp over 2 legs? Is Ancelotti a great manager, or is he losing it? We'll go to you, Schwinn.
I don't know. I mean, I obviously missed the first leg because I was in transit as that game was being played. But from the highlights I watched, from the reaction I read, from everything you boys said, it seemed like they were creating enough but not finishing, which was exactly the case yesterday. I wonder how much it's them missing a talisman. And I wonder how much it's them missing Hamšík, who, of course, left them in January. because he was obviously a very instrumental part of the creative force behind the team, and someone who's a leader linking the defense to the attack. So I wonder how much of that has played. Maybe you can speak to that a bit more, Tez, but I found them very, very underwhelming, especially yesterday. Neat, tidy football, but when it matters, they just did not have any significant output, no substance at all. And that's one of the reasons I was so comfortable in the 50th or the 60th minute. So I completely agree with what Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang Golden Boot says.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of... Look, I obviously watch a lot of Roma games, but they smashed us, and it was on the 1st of April, Tony. But they did smash us, and they played very good. So I did watch them a couple of weeks ago, and they drew against somebody. They just as you just said, Schwinn, they just struggle to finish. So is Ancelotti a great manager or losing it? That was the one that I was interested in about, Schwinn.
I think he's a great manager. I don't think that there's any denying that. Someone with his pedigree, his resume, he is a great manager. Every now and then managers will go through a rough cycle, a rough patch. Well, Darren, of course, disagrees, but for me, he's a great manager. Is he losing it? I think it's too early to say one way or the other. I'm not saying he should be in contention for an Arsenal job or anything like it. Even when before Emery was signed, I always said I don't want him at the club. It's nothing against him. It's just a weird and different phase right now. But you don't lose that pedigree. You don't lose that tactical nous. And to this, I think, would be a bit too premature, I'd say.
Go on, Darren. Have your say, mate.
I'm only just saying that. I just think he's a journeyman manager now. You get managers who have good periods, and the game moves on, football moves ahead of them, and they just go big job to big job. When he was mentioned as a potential Arsenal manager at the end of Wenger, it would have been a disastrous move for us. He's just a statesman-like figure. Wenger and Eriksson, how many jobs did he get on the back of being a very average manager? Ancelotti's got a good pedigree. He's done well over years, but as the years have gone on, a bit like Wenger, football's moved on and the game's overtaken him. He is a good manager, but he's at the end. He's like a lot of players. He's coming to the end of his career. He's to me, he is on the decline. So glad he didn't come to Arsenal, because that was a big opportunity. There was a big chance he was going to come to Arsenal in the summer. Lots of fans like Schwinn, he says he didn't want him to come to Arsenal, but you just heard him just say, "Oh, what a wonderful manager he is! You don't lose that pedigree." It's nonsense. It's nonsense. He has lost that pedigree. It would have been a backward step. We might as well have kept Wenger if we were going to take an Ancelotti. If Wenger had gone in and taken over the Napoli job or the Juventus job, we might as well have taken Wenger back if we're going to take an Ancelotti. I think he's on the decline.
You agree, Tony?
I didn't want him at the time. Look, I think we're being so strong in the criticism of Napoli here. I think we're going so over the top because they've lost 2 games at home, one of them to us, one of them to Juventus. They're comfortably second in the. It's a one-team league. No one's going to win that. So you're all playing for second, and they're comfortably second by a margin. At home this season, they beat Liverpool. They were unlucky to go out of the Champions League to Liverpool. They drew with PSG home and away and dominated both of them games, really. On the example of what we've seen over 2 legs, you can say Napoli are shit or not the best. You can say Ancelotti's finished. But you actually, when you look at the season as a whole, you really can't argue with what they've done at all. And I think we're being very blinkered in basing a whole Napoli season and a whole manager's year based on 180 minutes against us, and 180 minutes when we'd all say we played well. I mean, there's been people saying yesterday was our best performance of the season. I don't particularly agree, but it's in our top 5, and because we've produced that top 5 performance, everyone now tells you Napoli is shit. Not for me.
Yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear, and you got to give credit to Napoli. They are second in the league. Inter might be the only team that might catch them, but I think they've got pretty much sewn up.
7 points with 6 games to go or something.
Yeah, and I think they do play each other second last game or something. I think so. That might be the game. The terms I don't know.
So Tez, you said you watch a bit of Italian football. I mean, wasn't that Sarri's team? Wasn't they a lot closer? They're 17 points adrift of Juventus this year. Wasn't they a lot better?
I'd probably put that down.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, exactly. I put that down to Juventus have strengthened. but nobody else really has.
And
also,
Napoli
Napoli
have
have got
weakened.
weakens. Like Schwinn mentioned, Hamsik, Jorginho has gone. So they've lost probably nearly £100 million worth of player, not bringing anyone huge or any names, while Juventus didn't really lose anyone major and added if he's not the best player in the world, he's the best goal scorer in the world.
If anybody was going to do anything, and look, I don't want to sound a bit biased, but we are an Arsenal podcast, but if anyone was going to do anything, there was some expectations on Roma this year because we did bring in lots of players, but it didn't really go to plan either. And whether them players are a bit young, and maybe they're saying, maybe next season, but then we might sell in the summer. So I don't know. I think Juventus, I think they just strengthened so much that they're just well above everybody. And I hope, and no, my Juventus mates are listening, but I just think they're just above everybody else in the league.
Was it also this year that they brought Bonucci back as well? So in the summer they brought Ronaldo and Bonucci. If the gap ain't bigger after that, they might as well stop running as a club.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a big gap. It really is. Okay, what else was I going to say? Hakon Larson, we played the game away, won, and we had control for most of the game. What the fuck is going on? Yeah, we're hearing you, buddy. Shree says, was this a tactical masterclass by Emery or just a very poor and wasteful Napoli performance? I think we've touched on that a bit,
Yeah, just on the question before, sorry, I know Hakon's wasn't a question, but I said to you two last night, I'd been looking at some stats and stuff, which is unusual for me, but on our away form, Aubameyang until Watford hadn't scored an away goal since Boxing Day, or the day after Boxing Day. Lacazette's goal yesterday was his first away. If his last 10 goals, 9 were at home, and that was yesterday. There's a secret to our bad away form. The two geezers that score all our goals haven't scored.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you blame them for not taking their chances or the service to them or not getting them on the pitch enough, whatever way it is, it doesn't take a genius to work out if Aubameyang and Lacazette ain't scoring, Arsenal ain't going to win too many games.
I will say, just to comment on that quickly, I think more than the cause, that's the symptom. I don't think it's necessarily because of their output.
Well, surely it's both. The cause, if they score, then the cause is not there.
Yeah, but I think it's more to do, as you said, right, that you can either blame them or even look into the chance creation and how much service they're being given. I think anyone who's watched this away, and I know you travel with the team up and down the country, I think you know that it's a bit more than just them missing chances. I think there's been a serious lack of creation and just controlling the game in a lot of cases. So it comes back to your point that watch football with your eyes. And I think the stat here qualifies what we've seen so far, but I don't think it's necessarily the root cause of our bad form, if that makes sense.
I think it plays a big part. I mean, look, you was at the Tottenham game. Lacazette and Aubameyang misses a penalty, Lacazette misses a sit-up.
Yeah.
That game's done if either of them go in. I could probably, look, that's just the one that comes to mind, but I could probably go through a lot of our losses and go, well, that chance is more of a 60% should have scored. I mean, look, it's for players of their level, both of them, for them to not score this year, essentially, is regardless of the service, them two players should be scoring. So
that's good. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like for me, I agree. I partially agree with you that it's not the complete cause. It's not like we've been making chance after chance after chance, and they've been missing them, and that's why we've not won. But for me, if you're them two, and as I said, there has been chances where you go, they should score 50% plus, 60% of the time, and they haven't been. I mean, interestingly, Lacazette's one away goal before yesterday was Huddersfield away. So I mean, we end up winning it 2-1, but it's a game. It's Huddersfield. They're the worst team in the league by a mile. And Aubameyang's previous away goal before Watford was Brighton, who, as I said, on just the most horrendous run of form and could potentially go down. So it's not only just that they haven't scored a lot away from home, it's that both of them, and Aubameyang always gets stick for this, but both of them, it's who they've scored against as well. They've scored against the games where the millennials will call it stat padding, but for me, the goals have got to be scored. But as I said, it's just, look, you get them two scoring, there's no secret, you get them two scoring away from home, and we won't lose as many games. For me, it's as simple as that. Okay,
geez, I just listened to that, and I'd love I know there's no stat, but how many do they actually miss? You know, and how many are actually on target? There have to be something out there that'll tell you. The away games that you're saying, what do you say? They scored one each away.
Aubameyang's last goal before Watford away was Boxing Day against Brighton.
Yeah.
Lacazette's got in his last 10 goals. I think that was before last night. There was one away, and it was Huddersfield. Huddersfield away in February.
I wonder why it is. Why is that? I wonder.
Look, they definitely get less service away. Let's not pretend it's their fault, but they also have been missing chances that you'd expect them to score.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hope those boys perform the next couple of games. MAA Gunner, I'll go to you here, Darren. It's a little bit about... he says, how come everyone gives a shit about racism? And me and Tony were talking about the racism last podcast regarding Aubameyang was coming out, Mo Salah came out. It was against Koulibaly, wasn't it, Tony?
Koulibaly got... I'm not sure who Napoli were playing, but there was an incident. There's been loads of incidents recently.
Anyway, there's just all the incidents. So how come everybody gives a shit about racism now, but when Ozil came out with a statement, people cared more about his retirement and how poor he played in the World Cup than the words of his racism?
It's because he's white, isn't it? I mean, there's no, obviously, racism. I mean, you go back a long time. Racism is almost completely eradicated from the game to how it was 20, 30 years ago, but it's still there. Football's a reflection. It's a window on society, and there's racism in the world. Even without touching on politics, but Brexit, the 2 or 3% that swung it to be an out rather than a stay is people who are fundamentally racist who just think, right, let's not be part of anything else, jingoism. So, but I think the Ozil thing, is purely that he's known as a footballer. He's not known because he's a black footballer. He's talking politics, and people are more interested in football than they are in Turkish, German, whatever politics, and he's white.
Can I add my 2 cents on it? For me, and look, this might be idealistic thinking, and this is seriously what I hope it is that it's not visible. As in, we see fans being racist in the ground, or see or hear. We see videos on social media. The Mo Salah video is an example, or when Chelsea fans done it to Sterling, it was on TV, like you could see it and hear it, and the same as the Koulibaly thing. Whereas the Ozil, I believe it happened, and I think most people do, but we can't sit here and say 1,000,000% there was a racist agenda against Mesut Ozil. As I said, we may believe it, and I do, but we can't say that. Whereas I can 1,000,000% sit here and say there was a racist chant against Mo Salah. And that might be me being so idealistic and trying to see the best in the world, but that's what I believe it is.
That's fair call. You want to add anything on that, Shwin?
I've gone over this topic many times and spoken about it passionately. I think I'm just exhausted with it, so I'm just going to skip over.
And I think just one thing to mention. I mean, Tony, you're at Arsenal all the time. I'm not there so much these days, but every time I go, Arsenal is a hugely multicultural club. There really isn't any outward racism within there. You have individuals who are racist. You will always get idiots who will shout, will swear, will do things, will make racist comments. But fundamentally, that's not. Arsenal is a real multicultural club. The very nature of North London means it's a very multicultural area, and it's not a huge issue at our club. There will always be idiots, but I don't think it's a huge issue at our club.
I agree. I think most clubs would probably say the same, though, to be honest. I do completely agree with you. You're not wrong. But I would like to think that at any club where it happens, especially in England, I mean, look, Chelsea are the ones that get tarred with it the most, and there's been the most occasions or the most instances with Chelsea, so probably rightly. But in reality, Chelsea is 3 miles from North London, so you can't say the demographics any different or whatnot.
I would say that the demographic of West London is different to Tottenham. I mean, it is a predominantly white middle class area where Chelsea is.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Chelsea the name and Chelsea the football club are completely different places. I know you're London based, like not London based, sorry, but you know London well enough to know that Stamford Bridge is in Fulham. Like, let's not bring it into Chelsea. It's not Chelsea and Kensington. It's very much not Chelsea and Kensington. And the demographic around there is, I would say, as equal as North London, pretty much. Having grown up pretty much central, I mean, I'm from a 1 postcode, so I'm as central as you can get. I don't think demographics are any different. And I don't think Chelsea are a racist club. I think they have a few idiots, the same as every club does. I think they're stupid enough to film themselves.
Yeah.
And likes and retweets again, eh?
Well, that Salah video was in a bar there was loads of people, and I think 4 people were singing it. And as you said, someone's put it out there for, what a funny not catchy, but what a funny chant to love someone. And look, we have chants. I know racism is completely different, but we have chants basically suggesting Harry Kane's a spastic, and it's hilarious, and people record it and put it online, and it's funny. And I think that's just someone with the wrong sense of humour has heard that Salah song and thought, oh, that's funny, I'll put that online. And do I agree with their views? No. Are they racist in day-to-day life? I don't know them, but almost certainly not. Maybe they are. I don't know who it was. But they've just heard a song, thought it was funny, recorded it, put it out there, and the rest is history.
I think people just, I don't know. I really don't give 2 fucking shits about all this. Like, and I don't know whether the players, I get where they're coming from. They've got to speak up about it, but just ignore it. Like, I don't know. People they put things up there, and I don't even look at it. I just, I don't get offended by anything, so it doesn't faze me too much.
Let's not minimalize it, because it does affect them. Whether you're white, whether you're black, whether you're one descent or the other,
but does it though? Does it?
Yeah. I mean, there's serious concerns about it. There have been for many decades. And it's. I mean, let's be honest. It's very, very shocking that it's still continuing, and at the rate it's continuing, one could argue it's escalating. So we are going back in time when it comes to racism and the effects of it. I don't necessarily think that that's the right argument to make, that don't be bothered by it, because they clearly do. So let's not try and fight that. I think we should be oriented towards solutions than discussing the disease itself.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Yeah, look, I totally understand what you're saying, but for me, if somebody's sledging shit at you and carrying on like a pork chop, well, that's his problem, not my problem. So I just tend to go, well, and I'm not obviously a professional sportsman, but I just tend to go, well, that's his problem. I'm not going to get offended by what he's saying to me. I'm not, because he's calling me a black cunt, I'm not going to go, oh, fuck, he called me a black cunt. I'm fucking offended and going to cry, and I might, go and do something stupid. Like, for me, I just go, really? Well, oh, okay, have a good day, mate. Like, it doesn't affect me. It does not bother me one bit. So I don't know. I get, you can start throwing people out of the stadiums and banning people. And I agree totally, it shouldn't happen. But I don't know how you police it.
No, you don't. You don't police it. It has to be a shift. It has to be a shift that's inculcated into people by their own choice. And it's as I said, we're moving away from it and not in the right direction. I don't think football solves this. This is a much bigger issue than just football. And to expand this conversation to a solution, overarches football. That's where the problem comes in. And I think you're right when it comes to that. It's not something you can police.
Okay, Tony, Ask Brothers, Rantcast Max, he's got a question. With Sven gone and no clear direction of football in sight, will Emery get more control over the transfer strategy? And will that ultimately be a good thing as he tries to build a squad in the image of his own playing style?
I hope not, because nothing against Emery. If he's been working this whole year as his brief is you are the first team manager, this is your job, then all he'll have to go on if he is suddenly shoehorned into a manager role is that, oh, well, here's the scout reports from players that we've been watching. Of course, he'll know other players, but he won't be in watching them in the detail or instructing the scouts in the way he wants to, because that wasn't his job. I would still expect a technical director or sporting director or director of football to come in, whatever you want to title them. I also would expect that they've already been working on a list of players. I think with the amount of time transfers take, they will have identified a long list of players. They may not have cut it down to a short list yet of who's available and who would be willing to move and who would be within the right price frame and who would be within the wage structure. But I think there'll be a long list of players already identified. They would have been identified for a while, to be honest, some of them, and some of them may have only come onto a list more recently. But I don't think, and I don't want Emery to be put into that role.
Okay. MAA. So I don't know. It's not really a question, but he's asking. Do you think Arsenal chose to wear the red shorts because it makes them look like Super Mario and would piss off all the Italian fans? Fucking hell. Gator, Gurner, you guys always answer my questions in your analysis. Just wanted to say, great away win. Come on, you Gooners.
He's probably sitting there now thinking, I was going to ask this and the fuckers didn't answer it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, no, that's all right. So that's it. I'm just scrolling through. That's all the questions. So thank you, everybody, for your questions. And as always, after the game, at @clockend_talk. Darren, before you go, mate, before we wind up this show, give us your predictions for Arsenal end of season.
Okay. By the way, can I just say I hated the kit we wore yesterday. Just couldn't understand it. Hated it. You know, we've got a red and white kit. Hated it. Just hated it. At the start of the season, I said Arsenal were going to finish third. That was very much heart ruling head rather. I really thought we would finish. It was going to be a struggle this year. Now, how many times have we had this conversation? We do it on our podcast. How many times have you changed your mind? Well, I've kept confidence in third all year, mainly just because of people like Schwinn who keep saying, no, we're going to finish fifth, or we're shit, we're going to finish, it's all going to go horribly wrong. I've just felt, I can't affect it, so I can just be positive all the way through. I think that we possibly missed, and Spurs qualifying for the Champions League semi-final might just affect their league form, so there's still a chance we could catch them, but I think we missed the boat on them a bit. But United, they've appointed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, which I think was the best thing ever, because he was an unproven manager who's just had a bit of luck, and I think they're going to fall away, and I think we're slightly better than Chelsea, so minimum fourth, but I'm still hoping for third, and of course we're going to win the Europa League.
I like it. Okay, Schwinn, hopefully you're going to join us again next week, mate.
Yes, that will be the plan.
And just on Schwinn, mate, we know how much negative little cunt he is. So.
Oh, fuck off.
Okay, thanks again. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, cheers. I'm getting too used to this Schwinn fella. I spoke to him twice in a week.
It's a real surprise, isn't it? Okay, thank you, everybody. Oh. Yeah.
I was saying it's confusing, this bloke turning up every week.
Yeah, it does. It is. It's shocking the system. Actually, just before I go, I better explain to the listeners, we threw out a tweet to replace Schwinn next season.
He's getting sacked.
Schwinn is actually retiring as a podcast. Are you, Schwinn, or you're putting up hire a podcast host?
No, so I've been very fond of the hashtag retired podcaster for the last few months, and I took a fancy towards that. So, but then, I also got a tickle for hashtag podcast host for hire. So, I thought, why not make the best of both and sort of take it as it comes. So I'll turn up every now and then, but probably not every week.
Sack in the morning. Sack in the morning.
So what happened is Schwinn is going to look. He's going to be a bit busy next season. He'll pop in once a month or twice a month or something. We put a tweet out to say, look, if anybody's interested, get in touch with us at _talk. Basically, look, how do you replace this bloke? He's a handsome young bloke with a with a very
Thanks
good
for the radio.
with a very, very good English accent, or American accent, or a South African accent, or whatever accent you want him to be. Schwinn's got it, so that's what we're looking for as a replacement. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening and thank you for downloading. You can follow us at _talk. Enjoy your Easter weekend because this podcast go out and very soon, so enjoy that, and thank you everybody, and thank you to all my guests. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks ever so much for having me. Really enjoyed myself. Cheers.
No worries. Cheers, mate. Thanks, Schwinn. Thank you, Tony. Good night.
Bye-bye.